News Channel 5 Network, this is MorningLine with Nick Barris.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on MorningLine. I'm Nick Barris here on a Tuesday, and we have a good show with one of my favorite guests joining us here this morning to try to answer some of your questions, legal questions, so it's your shot at free legal advice on the realm of the law that deals with us as we age and things that we need to consider either for ourselves or our loved ones that come up later. And yeah, I was telling him when he sat down here with me this morning that you never really need him till you need him, okay? Yeah, I know that's kind of a silly statement, but that's the truth. You don't think about elder law and the part of what happens in the future down the road till it suddenly hits you in the face. And now with the baby boomers aging, we all know that this is a booming, I think, sector of the legal practices out there, and one of the first people in the country really to get involved with this years ago, and now I think you're one of the foremost experts anywhere. Tim Takis,
yeah, glad to be back.
It's good to see you.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a show here on the Plus now, so I figured,
I know, like right over there,
yeah, right
and
over
it's
there.
great.
You get the fancy set.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think so. I
yeah,
like
it's
the
a nice
backdrop. You have a great.
Yeah.
But it's nice of you to come on here once in a blue moon and slum it with me.
Well, as you know, I mean, I've been doing this since 2000, 2001, maybe.
I know, man. Think about it.
It is. Yeah, I think about that because I remember, you know, and I'm like showing my age because, you know, I was like a little baby lawyer or whatever it is, and I remember I was in an airport like in maybe 2002 or 2003. I was going somewhere with my mother. Yeah. You know, and I was at the airport, and I got a coffee or something like that, and the person, you know, that served me the coffee says, "Well, hello, Mr. Takis." You know, and I'm going, you know, how does this happen?
And that was,
you know, and it was really nice because my mom was there.
Yes.
You know, and that was just nice to.
And that was early on.
And that was really early.
Think about it. You've been doing it now, and I was telling you, I have people in the field asking me about you or trying to contact you because they know us from this show, and they're looking for legal advice on these senior issues, right?
Exactly, and I appreciate that. Like what you're saying is, I've been doing this for, I'd say, such a long time. We had our 25th anniversary last year when I started the firm in 1992, and I started doing elder law right around that time.
Now, when you did start this, and this is something for the viewers to consider, it was on the cusp of what you saw happening with baby boomers aging and there being a huge market for this. But when you first jumped in, it wasn't quite, you know, there wasn't the demand that there is now, was there? I mean, people always need this, but there's so many more people aging now.
Right, and back when I started doing this in the early 90s, there was a perception that you were going to get old, that there were statistics that were showing that people were going to be needing, you know, their health was going to decline, they're going to need extended care, and how are we going to make sure that these people are going to get the care for, you know, that they can pay for. Yeah, so elder law really was focused a lot in the early 90s about paying for care. How do you pay for nursing home care? And, you know, and we've talked about, you know, many times about how right now, the monthly cost of a nursing home is generally $7,000 to $8,000 a month, and most people will go, "That's $80,000 or $90,000 a year," and I couldn't afford to do that. Well, back in the mid 90s, it was like $3,000 or $4,000 a month, and that was a lot of money back then.
Absolutely.
You know, and people were going, "Well, how can I afford to do that?" And what I saw is that, okay, there's going to be a wave of people that were going to be needing, you know, care in a nursing facility, but there was a whole lot more people coming behind them that were never going to go to the nursing home, but still needed to be, they still needed legal services and still needed to get help managing, you know, themselves through the long-term care system. Right. Well, how to deal with Medicare, how to deal with VA, how to deal with Social Security, you know, how to deal with just things that happen when you are aging, and how things, you know, how your estate planning needs to change.
Well, how did you recognize what you're describing there? There are folks out there that are very well set up for retirement and have a lot of money, and sure, they could use your services, but some of who you're describing, they're the ones who maybe say, well, I just couldn't afford an assisted living facility like that. How did you envision, or how is it you're able to make a living as a lawyer, and you certainly deserve to be paid for your services, when you're dealing with some of these people who are on fixed incomes, that they need some help? Did you recognize there's enough of them, you charge them a reasonable rate, you can help them? How did you do that?
That's pretty much it. Is what I saw was, and I tell this story a lot because I have a vivid memory of this family that came in sometime around the mid-90s or whatever, you know, and mom was still living at home, and they were trying to figure out how to make that happen, and what could they see in the future. And I started talking about, well, if mom ever needs nursing home care, it's going to be this and doing this and doing this, whatever. It was about the money. And they said thank you very much, and they left. And I thought, when they left, I said, if I were them, I wouldn't have hired me either. Because they were talking about how do we take care of my mom, and how do we make sure that she's well taken care of at home, and what are our options for paying for care there, and what the finances and what estate planning needs to be doing. And I was talking about nursing home care.
I see. And they wanted to find a way to keep her home.
Right. And what I realized is that they weren't wrong, I was wrong.
Okay.
I had to change the way I looked at my practice.
Sure.
And as you know,
but that was a big change, because back then you were part of what most people, they're old, they go to nursing home. Now, fortunately, there are so many more options that are oftentimes more affordable.
Exactly. And that's what we're looking for is how do you get the right care at the right time at the right place, and how are you able to pay for it
at the right price.
At the right price. Yep. Is it a good fit for you? Where's the money going to come from? Let's look at what money and property that you have. Does it come out of this pot over here? Do you borrow against the house? Do you sell the house? Do you do something else?
Reverse mortgage or
all those sorts of things that come into play. And how do we make reasonable projections about what we can expect for you, in the long haul? I mean, our older people, and the older you get, and you stop working and you retire and you're going, the money's going out, right? And then you're thinking, well, gee, how long can I keep the money going out?
You have some meager Social Security. Hopefully you have some investments, maybe? Not everyone does.
Not everybody does. Yeah. So how do we make sure that we can make those dollars last? Right. How do we make sure that our clients don't run out of money? What are our options for, okay, maybe living at home is where they need to be.
Right.
But maybe it's not, and if it's not, what are their options to make sure that, as I said, get the right care at the right place at the right time? Yep. Because if they don't, they can it can be wasteful, which means they're getting too much care, which is, not bad, but at the same time it's like wasteful. But what if they're not getting the care that they need? Then they're likely to wind up needing extended care sooner. Yeah. And then it gets even more expensive for them. Yep. And so it's a real, so we try to balance the legal, financial, and personal care needs of our clients.
It's a lot to navigate.
It is. It really is. Or as like I say is that, I just kind of told you what my 15-20-second elevator speech is that we balance and integrate your legal, financial, and personal care needs. Yeah. But if I had to say what my 5-second elevator speech is that I help you take care of your mother.
Yes. Or father.
Or your father, or your spouse, or sometimes it's yourself.
Well, I'll tell you this, as we go to the break, the number's up on the screen, 737-7587. Any questions, we can get into more specifics. You may want to ask him about a will, a reverse mortgage, all of that. But I'll say this, he majored in law, and he has a law degree. He has a minor in psychology, and trust me, he has an understanding of sometimes there is something that has to be done to get especially some of these seniors even to the table to discuss the things you were just talking about, where he's actually helped me a great deal in the situation with my folks. Because not always do some of these seniors, are they willing to make some of the changes that you as a loved one clearly think they need. You don't want to force them, but you have to find a way. But Tim it's the psychology of it, and his first and foremost, you've always taught me this too, though. You are looking out for the well-being of the senior. That's right. And you've seen cases, unfortunately, where there's family members that just want to get their money. Right. And you know how to watch. But most of the time, he works on both sides of that. So Absolutely. We'll talk about that, and we'll get into more detail. The phone line's, again, open, 737-7587. Questions, I always have questions for you about wills and things like this, and power of attorney, which things you need to think about. We'll take a break, be back with more right after this. To protect